main issues with Boruto so far. Like, I don't know about you, but in my opinion, like Sasuke was just nerfed to the ground, and especially in like arcs of like, I don't know if we call this even canon, but like the Urashiki arc and stuff like that. Those arcs just absolutely ruined the anime for me. So after that, I kind of dropped the anime for like a long Hokage for long. Um, but yeah, the first issue was there was too much security for the new generation. Obviously, like I could go in about the filler. The filler was absolutely horrible for me. Some people call it like character development or whatever, and that it's needed, but there's just like episodes of the fucking cat bitches, or sorry, the cat team or whatever the hell that was, and shit like that. That was just a huge issue, and it just completely took me out of the story. Like, I like slice of life, I liked Naruto's slice of life, but it was just something with Boruto is just, it didn't resonate with me at all. Maybe I'm just too old and it's just like meant for the younger generation, but regardless, I wasn't in it. I wasn't like watching a show for like slice of life, and it just felt like for years on end, that's all we were getting for the most part. I think like the first serious arc in the anime, besides when Momoshiki invaded, what would be the first serious arc? Maybe, maybe it was when Mitsuki, yeah, maybe it was the Mitsuki retrieval arc that could have been like somewhat serious, but at the end of the day, for me, that arc also kind of fell short just because of the ending of it with Mitsuki like just ultimately just turning on what was his name? I guess it was technically Onoki and the knockoff Madara dude.
Who?
But yeah, his plan apparently was his plan was apparently to turn on them the whole time, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, he does all this fucking shenanigans in the middle of it, like fucking sending a lightning stream into Boruto and shit like that. Like for a second, I thought Mitsuki was like about it. I thought he was actually trying to turn or do something else with his life. But as far as I know, he was always planning on doing that. And as soon as that was revealed, it just took me out of it again because it's just always like for a long time it was seemingly happy-go-lucky all the time. Like there was no actual like weight of any decision that the characters would make. It just seems like it'd always go back to normal. Um,
I
but
don't.
As
yeah,
a
so
very small pause, would you
okay,
prefer, because I want to ask this in advance, would
yeah,
you prefer us to add our like
yeah, no,
interjections as we go,
yeah.
or
Please
for you to just
interject.
do the whole thing first?
No, please interject whenever you
Really,
feel
Okay.
okay, really
needed.
quick, just on that
So
alone, just on the last thing you said,
Yeah.
I don't think he was planning to do it from the very start. And he was like very resolute, no matter what. I'm always on
Hmm.
Boruto's side. I think he was to some extent. Obviously, like he was like wavering back and forth, in my opinion. But it was more of
Hmm.
rather than him being conflicted like that of like, oh, I'm gonna turn on Boruto. It was more of seeing where this is gonna lead in the first place before he has to make a decision. He's almost
So he was
going
just
with the
finding
flow.
himself.
Yeah, this is
Yeah,
why
he's
he
just trying to
Chidori's
find himself.
Boruto in the first place, just to get him out of there so he can continue on
Yeah.
his own journey. He can go on his own path for a
yeah,
little
because he
bit.
needed to
Hmm.
learn what he needed to learn to see what his will was. So Boruto would get in
Yeah.
the way of him figuring that out. So it's not that he's turning on Boruto; it's just that
Yeah.
Boruto temporarily was getting in the way of that.
Get in the way of that. Yeah, I could see that as well, to be honest. But regardless, I think it was just the ending of the entire arc that just really fell short with me. What even happened, dude? Because I can't even remember what happened at the end of the arc. All I can
Beat
remember
Lord
is
2.
that Anoki failed.
Yeah,
So
Onoki sacrificed himself to
It's the
beat
big
Lord
one.
2, and then they
yeah,
just kind of go back home.
yeah, and that's like the big issue with Boruto in comparison to Naruto for me. Like it just felt like every time in Naruto something like happened, it would move the whole entire plot forward, but for whatever reason in the Boruto anime, it just wasn't like that. It's kind of like that in the manga, but for a long
So
time in the anime, it wasn't.
the part I wanted to touch on is
Yeah.
in agreement with you, just elaborating on it. So there's two things. One, the character development I think is needed,
Hmm.
but I don't think it's executed the best in the anime because the anime never, for a lot of these characters at least, doesn't give you. It's the same problem we've been discussing with Enogen and stuff. They don't give you a reason to care about that development. They're just
Mm,
randomly throwing it in there, so it doesn't really mean anything for
mm,
90% of the characters. It's only relevant for like adding on a Kawaki, adding on a
yeah.
you've already kind of started to care about. So that's the first thing. So yeah,
Hmm.
the cat lady,
Yeah.
I don't care about her.
I don't
Get it
care.
out. And that turns people off because there's no reason why we should care. They're not only are they not relevant to the story, they're not even in the manga plot, period.
Yeah.
They are literally irrelevant. There's no need for them. So to randomly throw these random episodes focusing on them, we don't care about them. They're not relevant for any reason. It is kind of pointless. And that's why most people don't care. So that's where I think the problem is. They should be focusing on what matters, but really the manga should be doing that anyway. So none of this should matter. And then the other thing you said about the plot moving forward, this is why people call it filler, because most of the anime arcs, they're not actually pushing. There are some exceptions. The big exception, car actuation arc.
Yes.
What do you know? The best anime only arc in the show.
Yeah.
But most of them aren't pushing the plot forward. They really are the same thing as a filler arc. Just a random thing that happens in the middle that whatever they want to thematically do with it. Maybe it expands upon a character. That's fine. Yeah. But it's not pushing the plot forward whatsoever. So that's why people call it filler. And then when you factor in that half of them are about random ass characters, while I enjoy them because I can't help but enjoy everything I watch, it is objectively bad, I think.
Like the problem is like we can care about these random characters. Like in fucking Naruto, we cared about the Sand Village. We cared about these other fucking characters.
They gave us a reason to care. They gave us a reason to like.
We just have no reason in Boruto, and that's unfortunate. I think.
Yeah.
Like even what's his name? Shinky. Like I unfortunately I don't care about that dude either. And I feel like he could have been a great.
They took away our reason to care. I feel like.
So whereas I would agree with everything you guys are saying, so Boruto filler is Boruto, and Boruto is Naruto, which is, no matter what, by default, divine 10 out of 10. Therefore, Boruto fillers
that's what I'm saying.
Are meaningful. Because
that's
I
why
love
I'm
it
saying
no matter what.
I can't help but
exactly.
Well, that's what I'm saying, and that's what I can't help but enjoy it because no matter how bad they are, I'm gonna enjoy it. Like this is the honest truth.
It's bored,
but
which is Naruto.
I do exactly. Yeah, exactly, and that's the hard part. But like being objective for all the reasons I said, I think it is just very poorly executed. There, like I said, there are some exceptions. The car actuation arc it should have been in the manga. In my honest opinion, I'm not gonna say they did every step of the way perfect. Like there are some flaws with how it's done, but generally a very good arc for Boruto. It has everything you need. It has the character development we need. It has a villain that actually does something for the characters. It pushes the plot forward. It expands upon things actually relevant to the plot. Even the side character Mugino, he's in the plot more than Wasabi is. So expanding upon him's fine. It actually gives, not that his death was bad per se in the manga, but it gave us a reason to care about his death more than just the basic plot aspect. He went from a plot device to a character, basically, which is, it was fine in both cases, but, we care more in the anime. That's cool. It's just, they needed to be doing that stuff, but all the stuff they're mostly doing is random side shit. Now, I haven't watched some of the later stuff, admittedly. I left off at the Kawaki Academy arc, which, ironically, is an arc I really enjoy because it's funny, but also... Kawaki's a relevant character, so expanding upon him is worthwhile. Yeah. So, I have a reason to care beyond just the fact that it's also funny. He's fucking hilarious in the arc.
Mm-hmm. My biggest problem is, and Kamui's gonna freaking go off once I mention this, the fact that they can't just pretend like the anime continuity is just going along with the mangas, or this anime canon is canon. If they're just not going to do anything with that, like, it's one thing to say it and then not do anything with it. It's another thing to say it and then have the manga directly contradict everything in the freaking anime that they're setting up. Like, I don't understand how or why they could even do that. It's almost like they're spitting in our faces just to spite us. And freaking Kamui, I know you want to list the examples, so go ahead.
Yeah, so I have a couple. So I'll start with the narrative one. So, yeah, they aren't the fucking same story, and it pisses me. It's been pissing me off since day one. But the big one is you're caught up in Two Blue Vortex, right?
Yeah.
So, chapter 8, Mitsuki, his character development. The one chapter character development he gets. Yeah. The Mitsuki desertion arc was an entire arc dedicated to that exact same thing. His goal in the arc was to do what he
Jesus.
does in this chapter, and he succeeds in getting what he wants. And there is a scene in the anime where Mitsuki says basically the same thing. This is, mind you, it's either the Mujina Bandits or Out Arc. I think it's the Out Arc, but he tells Boruto, like, Boruto doesn't want to go on the mission. That's why I think it's the Out Arc. And then he's like, oh, well, you're my son, so I'll do whatever you want. That's what you thought I'd say, right? Well, actually, I learned that I have my own will, and I'm going to do what I want, so I'm going on the mission. So he's already had this character arc. So what's going to happen when the anime adapts it? They're going to pretend it never happened, and they're just going to copy it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, you can't just give a character arc to someone and then not even, you can have them learn something and I guess slowly lose it, or, you know, like over time, like a gradual degradation. That's
Which is
fine.
good,
But you
yeah.
can't just randomly that works. But you can't just have a character arc and then do nothing with it, but they just keep it.
Yeah.
It's not that
Remove it
Mitsuki
and have them
forgot.
relearn it.
It's not that Mitsuki forgot this lesson. It's that the staff is gonna pretend like it never happened.
Yeah.
Like,
So
why
the
is he
only saving grace
relearning
they
the
can
same
do
lesson?
is have him slowly. This is the only thing I can think of that really can work. Have him slowly lose it. And the best way you could probably do that is to somehow tie it in with Kawaki's behavior. But the problem is Mitsuki's already kind of learned that he doesn't need to like rely on his son wholly everywhere he goes. Like, yeah, he could be his son, but it's not like the end all be all for him. So I don't really know how they would do this, but there's zero ways for me to ever like it, whatever they're going to do in the end, because they've already fucked it up too much.
So that's Kamui's big
Now,
example.
the other one...
I wanted to say this other one.
So the
this
other
one's
one
funny
is
to me.
the
That's pretty fair, to be
Jogan,
honest.
which
Okay,
isn't narrative. It's just makes no sense plot-wise. How whatever they do with the Jogan in the manga, assuming they do it, I will never like it, because they're either going to act like Boruto's never done it before, which won't make sense in the anime, given that he's already in the Oroshiki arc been like, I recognize this sensation. And Oroshiki looks at him and says, oh, that's the Jogan. And Shiki's like, well, you have this dojutsu, and Boruto's like, yeah. Or something, if Boruto acts like he's never done it before, it won't make any sense. Or alternatively, Boruto will act like he's done this before, and they're not going to reference the anime. They're just going to reference whenever, and we're going to be like, but what about the anime scene? So like, or if he just acts like he's done it before referencing the anime, we're going to be like, but what about the entire manga when this never happened? So no matter what, it's going to suck.
Yeah, I think it was it the Sumire arc?
He's
With
done it like
New,
5 times, honestly.
when he had his Jogan. That was like
That's
the
the
first
first
time he
time,
got. Yeah, I mean, didn't he like actually like visually like look at his Jogan in the mirror?
Yeah,
Or am I
and
mistaken?
Oroshiki told him the name of the eye, and Boruto's like,
Oh,
I
really?
recognize this
Oh.
sensation. So if he in the future is like, oh, this new eye, what is this? I've never felt this before. He just doesn't know the name of it. It's just gonna feel wrong and weird.
It's just going to be a direct contradiction to the anime that's supposed to be the same story.
Yeah. Plus, is Toneri even in the manga?
No.
Yeah, that's tough.
But that's more minor to me. But although that doesn't, it's still a big deal. But it's like the joke on this is like, there's no way they can do it now, because they've gone on to, like, my example to this is always been, imagine if in the Naruto manga, Naruto never uses Kurama's power, and not a single character ever references Kurama. But the anime does everything it does. And then in part 2, out of nowhere, Naruto just starts using the Nine Tails. And they just act like it's always been that way, or whatever. Or they call back to scenes that never happened in part 1. You're going to be like, what the fuck? It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Or if Sasuke just never used the Sharingan in part 1. You know what I'm saying? Like, imagine they did this. Nobody would like it.
So the third example that I just find the most hilarious is the fact that in the manga, Sarada was never promoted to Chunin. And they're making an emphasis of that by noting that she's the only one in her class who is still a Genin after the time skip. She didn't even upgrade off screen to make it consistent. No, she just is a Genin. And so, regardless of the manga, I'm really excited to see how the anime handles this. If they are just gonna ignore it, that is gonna be even funnier than the Jogan or the Mitsuki scene to me. Or
What
if they
I'm
do
hoping
address
is that
it,
Shikamaru demotes her.
yes,
That's what I want.
that
them
is
to
what
do.
I want to happen, because that is by far the funniest thing they can do. If Sarada annoys Shikamaru so much because of omnipotence that he demotes Sarada to Genin.
That's the only saving grace for that.
Yes.
It's still bad, but like at least it will be funny in that case.
I just want to see her shocked expression. You can't do that. No, please.
But yeah, it's just like,
Yeah.
and like, why do they do this shit? It's like another reason why I just can't
Keto Maki.
imagine that like Kishimoto is actually fully invested, because it's like, how can you just let that happen? How can Kishimoto just approve of all this shit like that? Just like, yeah, that's fine. Bro is not paying attention if that's the case. Like, he's not actually listening to what they're saying, because there's no way